So in the case of GPS, let us come back to the context. And so we were looking at various gyroscopes. So mechanical gyroscope. Okay, so this is an accelerometer. We had already seen the gyroscopes before. We were looking at accelerometers and gyroscopes. The accelerometers, this is your mass, spring mass damper system. Then you had the gyroscope working principle. We saw how if you have a spinning wheel and a series of gimbals, and if you try to change the axis of the spin, basically if the spin axis is you try to rotate the spin axis, there is a resistance involved. So one example I can give here is in your house, if you have this pedestal fan, you must have, or sometimes it is called as the table fan. So if you try to move the table fan when it is rotating, it will be difficult. And then when the fan is switched off, that is one. The other incidence is if you have a drilling machine, a high-speed drilling machine, you should never rotate yourself or rotate the axis of the drilling machine whenever the operation is on. So you should rotate in the axis of the drilling machine. Okay, the drilling machine itself, the rotor will be rotating. So when you have switched it on, you should not move around with that. Not because it will fall down or something. It may fall down because of this high resistance. You will see that your hand will be pulled away if you suddenly try to change the direction. So that is because of this expression. If you give a precision to it, cross product angular momentum, if the angular momentum is high for a high speed drilling machine or something, this is very high, you will see that a torque will be felt in this particular direction which is indicated here. So these are some of the examples on day-to-day life. You can see the gyroscope working principle. The same working principle is used to measure the rotation angle or rotation rate. Then we saw a non-mechanical gyroscope. There are many other gyroscopes. Later on, we will briefly talk about it. It's basically tuning fork gyroscope, hemispherical tuning fork, and things like that. So in this particular case, the optical gyroscope, the Sagnac effect of the light, when you have two opposite beams of monochromatic light traveling and coming back to the same location, and if you rotate the complete setup, then interference is observed. So this interference will be utilized to measure the rotation rate. So this is how it will appear. Yes.
Sir, why do you put a lasing medium over there?
Actually, the entire medium is lasing medium. You don't supply it through outside. The laser itself, source is supplied from inside it. There is no, here just for schematics, we showed as if it is supplied from outside. You supply the laser light from the same path of the light itself. It is filled with helium gas or something. And then the laser light is generated there itself.
Okay, sir.
We will see if we can show some videos of this. Okay. Later on, I think if you are here, we could have taken you to ISRO Inertial Systems Unit where you would have seen that. But we'll see if we can compensate it by some mechanism. So in the case of GPS, all your mobile phones has it, but the basic principle what is utilized there is the trilateration principle. What is known is the position of the satellite because the satellite is transmitting information to you continuously. The user position is estimated by knowing the distance to the satellite. And how do you know the distance to the satellite? You use something called as the correlation based measurement. There are something called pseudo random numbers and other things. We will talk about that. Basically, some mechanism is there in your receiver unit which can estimate the distance to the satellite. There are errors and other things. We will see how they are solved. So if you have 4 satellites, measurements from 4 satellites, you can measure where you are as well as you can also find out the time also. time is important because the quartz crystal, what you carry in your standard mobile phone, are prone to drift. So this drift is computed from this drift from the atomic clock which the satellites are carrying, and the satellite clock is also not very precise. There is some known drift with respect to ground-based helium as a hydrogen measure system, which are much more accurate atomic clocks. So the ground-based systems are constantly calibrating the satellite-based systems. And then from the satellite, you receive it to your receiver. And from the PVT solutions, you will be able to compute this bias and then compensate your system clock in the mobile. In addition to that, the Doppler shift is also known. The Doppler is because of two things. The satellite is moving as well as the user is moving. Since the satellite movement is precisely known, because the orbit of the satellite is precisely known, you will be removing the Doppler due to the satellite's motion, and then the remaining Doppler motion can be utilized to compute the user velocity. So nowadays, many spacecrafts are carrying the global navigation systems, satellite systems based solutions on their receiver units on their satellites. Otherwise, you have to do some kind of orbit propagation. There is no other mechanism. There are other mechanisms like pulsar navigation. Some of you may be familiar with that. So that is another mechanism to estimate the position. Let us see how the spacecraft orientation can be estimated. So in order to find the spacecraft orientation, you need some references in the sky. Sun is one reference, star is also a reference, or Earth is also a reference. If your body is not symmetric, then the heavier part of the body will have more gravitational force due to the Earth, and then over a period of time that will slowly get attracted towards the ground. So that is one mechanism to know the direction. So star sensors are, if you observe the location, different constellations are in the different directions in the sky. So if you can take a photograph of that part of the sky, then you will, by understanding what constellation is present there, you will be able to identify the direction. I think some of your friends are already working on the star sensor, sun sensor, image-based techniques, even the earth sensor. I have not mentioned it. Yeah, gravity gradient, and one more sensor is the earth-based sensor. You can capture the image of the earth, and then if you, from the arc of, spherical arc of the earth, if you can estimate the center of the earth, then you know the direction. That is one more direction you will understand. So typically GPS, global navigation system is used in modern days, or ground-based radar tracking systems are also used. So you require very high ground RF power to be transmitted, and then receive the reflected signal and identify the position of an object in the sky. It is basically just like any aeroplane detection with radar. You require a higher radar RF power in this case. So this is typically done for many low Earth orbits objects. So US and some countries are carrying it out extensively, these measurements, and then they are also displayed in the open. People can access and find out how many debris are there in the sky. Debris as well as live spacecraft. Okay, so for the star sensor, if you see this image in the sky, of course, this is a very simplistic representation. Inba and others will know how much more complicated it is. So if you see, this is basically the Big Dipper constellation, or it's also called Saptarishi in the Indian terminologies. So you imagine a satellite on the left-hand side. It observes, it takes the photographs of the sky, and then it sees the Big Dipper constellation. Since the Big Dipper constellation is fixed with respect to celestial sphere, then it knows which direction it is in. So it has to have a database in your satellite for different constellation, and depending on which constellation it sees, and of course, which part of the camera also. Basically, if your sensor, if you see only a part, you have to make sure you see the complete part and then center it appropriately. So this is how your star sensor works. Okay, so thank you. This is the introduction. Any questions in the introduction? So navigation, guidance, and control. These are the three concepts we introduced. Navigation is estimating where you are, and of course the orientation also, in which direction you are pointing to. Guidance basically is estimating the path, and control is your steering command, thrust command, and thrust switch off on and things like that. Putting all these three things together is your navigation, guidance, and control. It is the mechanism through which all your spacecrafts are operating. Or any moving body would require, obviously, these things. Then we looked at some examples of inertial navigation. Inertial navigation basically means it uses inertial sensors. So you had stabilized platform system and strap down system. Stabilized platform, you had an artificially, through the use of gimbals, artificially maintaining the, I wouldn't say artificially. So, okay. So through the use of gimbals, you maintained certain platform stable and then observed the accelerometers and gyro readings. Using them, you somehow reconstructed the position. For instance, if you know the acceleration, inertial acceleration is known, then you simply integrate it to compute the position, double integrate it to compute the position. Then we looked at some of the sensors, accelerometers, spring mass balance. Then you had gyroscopes, spinning gyroscope and optical gyroscopes. Then some mentioned here, I mentioned few sensors like star sensor, sun sensor, and how the direction is in a very simplistic way estimated. Okay, any questions in the overall understanding? Now let us, after this, we will have a question and answer session now. You can ask whatever you want. Only now that the introduction is over. So,
Sir, can you explain once what is that precision and how to measure that?
what
In
is
that form, precision, sir. In the formula, torque into equal to precision.
precision? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Precision is your okay. So you observe there is an outer body which you can imagine to be fixed to the. Do you want to see that video again?
No, sir. From this figure only, like, if you can say it better.
Okay. So if you imagine that you are applying a torque along the input axis, what does you have a spinning wheel, and then you have an inner gimbal which is free to rotate with respect to the outer axis. So when you apply a torque in the with respect to that input axis, you are trying to change the axis of the wheel. Change in the sense the orientation is changed. So if you try to change it, then how will the rotor, that inner gimbal rotate? The inner gimbal will rotate with respect to the output axis. So if you can measure that, that is will be your angular rate. Precision is the rate.
Okay, sir.
Rate, okay. What is the rate at which the inner gimbal rotates with respect to the outer axis? So if you want to make sense of the units, let us see what is the angular momentum unit. Angular momentum, you can imagine it to be moment of linear momentum. We will define these concepts also later on. You imagine acceleration is on the left hand side, and then angular momentum you imagine to be linear momentum. So what should you multiply to obtain the acceleration? Rate of change of momentum is acceleration, right? Unit wise, I'm saying. Unit wise also you try to make sense here. So torque, what is the unit of torque? Can one of you tell?
So rate of change of momentum is force, right?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, sir.
Force or acceleration. If you have mass in the angular momentum case, the mass is also included there. So yes, you can think of it as a force. On left hand side, then you have to imagine. So precision is rate. omega. You can imagine what is the rate at which the inner gimbal rotates. You have to see whether is it an angle or rate. We have to see carefully to make sense of the multiplication here. You think of this as a cross product. Cross product is the right way to represent. But however, once again, in the case of units, you are simply going to multiply the units.
Okay, sir.
So linear momentum, what is the unit of linear momentum? Mass into velocity.
Yes, sir.
So if you say moment of angular momentum, you have to multiply it with one more length.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So anyway, we will go into the details of definition. When we talk about rigid body. So what we will do is probably next we will take up that topic. Any other questions? This is just a brief introduction, okay, without just concepts only for that. So questions, comments, and things like that we will discuss. Then we will also discuss what we should do in future. So this course is 3 credits. Theory is 3 credits. Lab is 1 credit. So lab, since you will not be able to come here live, and our lab actually is being shifted now to a newer location. It is in the process. So we will have some simulation exercises I will give you. I will discuss about that. That is, you have lab 1 credit. Maybe we should start with discussion of lab or theory. So I think you have 2 quizzes of 20 marks each. And then you have internal assessment. That is also 20 marks. And then end sum is 40 marks. Okay, so there will be one course project. Okay, so this way I will evaluate both for the lab as well as your internal assessment. Some assignments also I will be giving. If you don't do well in the assignments or something, then I will use it to enhance your marks. So this course project will be basically used to evaluate your lab. Lab, we will have few simulation exercises just for your understanding, but course project will be the main evaluation criteria. So the course project, you have to voluntarily choose any area, any topic in the area of navigation. You can club it with any other courses. Okay, if you have another course in which you want to include, if there are course projects for other course, you can mix both of them. Concepts from other areas can be mixed to obtain navigation. For instance, one of the most in the case of image processing, what I can imagine is, so there is something called the docking of the spacecraft. So when you are near 2 spacecrafts are approaching, it is important to understand the orientation of the other spacecraft. So by taking images, can you estimate the pose? Real time, okay? So what we require is a real-time estimation of the orientation of the target by using only standard cameras, not 3D cameras or something. So usually you have to have some kind of patterns on top of the target system, which you will capture using your camera here. And then through that you estimate the orientation, a real-time estimation of this is one of the standard image processing problem. I'm just explaining how you can combine some topics. So if in the image processing this is acceptable, that is pose estimation using in real time, using image captures and other things. So you can combine it. Similarly, in your any other signal processing course, if you want to apply any signal processing ideas in the navigation, you can utilize it. So you are most welcome to include. So that is what is expected, because this will become a precursor to your final year projects also. So the longer you work, your quality of the final year project also will improve. So you have preferably try to choose it in a way where you can get maximum benefit. That is, you can combine the courses as well as extend it to a final year. But that is not compulsory or something. It's your decision. I'm just giving you some suggestions on how one can think about it. Yeah, but I think you should talk now instead of me. Okay, let me hear some questions and we'll stop sharing. Let us talk. Of course, attendance, no one knows whether we are attending or not. It doesn't matter. Okay. You decide which is best for. If you have any difficulties, don't hesitate to contact me. Not Rahul, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Oh, good. Rahul, Dhruva, all of you are there. I know few of you. I don't know many others.
Sir.
Yes.
So the project should be based only on navigation systems, or can it be also the control systems of it? I mean, in the sense reaction wheels or actuators.
Yeah, it can be part of that because they are all part of the navigation solution. No, your reaction wheel based systems are actually helping the navigation only. Orientation estimate. So navigation means position as well as orientation. So anything aiding the orientation, anything aiding the position is acceptable. Yes, thank you, Dhruva. That's a good point.
Sir. Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, how radar is used in satellite systems, sir?
We actually in satellites, are they using, I don't know, ground-based radars are used to track the satellites. That can be. So you can propose, see what happens is from the grounds when we track the debris, you have to have a very high transmit power. So you can propose a mission in which the satellite carries the radar. Since the orbit of the satellite is known and the position of the satellite can be known through your GPS or something. So if you can have a radar in your satellite, which can get the reflected signals back from the debris and then estimate the debris locations. That will be an excellent concept actually in future. Then you can use lesser RF power, however, spacecraft based. And one problem I will state, which is very important, if you in an interplanetary mother spacecraft, daughter spacecraft situation. So in IAST also we had proposed one for the Venus mission. There will be a daughter spacecraft which will separate from the mother spacecraft. But how do you estimate the position of the daughter spacecraft? The mother spacecraft position is estimated from the ground-based system because the spacecraft is large enough also. But however, you have only a smaller satellite which is coming out of your bigger satellite, around 50 kilos or something, which will be almost impossible to detect from the Earth because it is in Venus or some other planet. So you imagine this situation. Suppose the orbital plane is fixed, known for both of them, because when you eject out a daughter spacecraft, it is going to be ejected more or less in the same orbital plane. This assumption you can make. So once this ejection happens, can you simply measure only the distance and estimate the position of the daughter spacecraft with respect to the mother? Position, okay, not the distance. Only distance is not enough. I need to know where exactly it is in the orbit. So this is one important problem which actually we have got stuck up in this particular position. This was one question that was asked to us. We haven't solved this problem yet. So it will be good if one of you can take it up. It will be very useful.
This orbital plane mean like it will be in the same orbital plane or in the same orbit, sir?
Same orbital plane, in the same orbit only, because what you more or less, because you imagine you are pushing it out with 1 meter per second velocity. So it will be in the same orbit or slightly different orbit, right? When you increase the, whether you have slowed it down, whether you have speeded it up, slight difference will be there.
Sir, if it is in the same orbit, then only distance will find the position, right? Directly, because it is something like a circle. So
It may
only a
not be
distance.
circle, that you are, it may be an ellipse.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, yeah, good point. It may be an ellipse. Think about it. I think for your group only this problem was given, or one group before you? We have not got the solution still. Yes, any other comments or question? So comments are welcome, both negative, positive, everything, because the more interaction we have, I will be able to adapt as much as possible. Of course, I cannot completely change. Yes.
Sir, the spacecraft emitted from the bigger mother spacecraft, why is it always called daughter spacecraft? Is it because of the possibility of further emitting another spacecraft from the daughter spacecraft? Like why
Wow,
can't
that's
the sun?
that's a good question. Why not sun spacecraft? No, probably otherwise people will say male chauvinistic. No, I don't know, but that's an excellent question. Good point. I don't know the answer for that. Yeah, I think good observation. You have observed it very well. I don't know why they call it daughter. Yeah. Yes, thanks for that question. That's a good one.
So what are we expecting for the group sizes?
Okay, so groups will be, group sizes will be 2. Okay, 2 people in one group. You can do it alone or 2 of you can together do. I prefer, yeah, groups are allowed, because I want, see what usually happens is most of the time you are stressed to work alone, but I wouldn't want that. Group work is much more important than an individual work. But 4 will be, I think that we can debate whether do you want more than 2 or something, maybe 3. When I did with 4, what happened is 2 of the people were idle. In the beginning, I used to give course projects with 4 people in one group. So what used to happen was at least 2 people used to be idle in that. Then I reduced it to individuals. Then it became very difficult. Then I thought 2, maybe we can experiment with 3 if you all agree. Depending on your thing. 3, or you can decide if you want to work alone, okay. But group work is also important, because once you join the industry, that is what is expected from you. You are not expected to work alone, whatever you want to do or something.
3 will be fine, sir.
3 will be
Yes,
fine.
sir. Anything more than 2.
Okay, so then 3. 3 or less than 3, you can decide. Does that sound okay? Any other objection, plus or minus to it, you can tell me. But the quality should be better, okay? So then only evaluation will become easier.
Sir, can you provide some reference topics for the project?
Yeah, sure. I will try to make some list of the things. What people have earlier done, I will also check it out. If they had stopped in between or something, then I'll find that out.
Thank you.
So reference topics, I have to generate that. Okay, anything else? So you can work, some of you can work on GPS who already have that background, like Aditya, Even Rahul had done something on the GPS, both Aditya and they can think of that. It's not compulsory. If you have already done, at least you can utilize it to get some credit. No comments. Why? Only few of you are speaking. You are all tired or something?
Sir, for lab, what software will we be using, sir, for simulations?
So just to see anything, C or Python, you can use anything. I have no
Sir,
objection.
MATLAB.
MATLAB also okay.
Okay.
Whichever you are comfortable with, but don't use some exotic software which I don't have access to.
So what are the experiments we are going to do in the lab?
Okay, that's a good question. Okay, let us talk about lab now. Lab is first what we will do is we will do some calibration of gyroscopes. Calibration of gyroscopes. That is one. Then calibration of accelerometers. What does calibration mean? Calibration means you have to estimate something. You have to understand if you give a true input to the system, what is the output? So you have to fix this function between the true input and the output generated by your sensor. So then finally your requirement is whenever in the real situation, by looking at the output of the sensor, you should be able to know what is the true input to the system. That's the requirement. Final requirement is what is the input to the system when you observe the sensor readings. But in the calibration process, you are going to do it in the reverse way because you are trying to understand the function that is applied by the accelerometers or the sensor, any sensors. Okay. So we will be trying to calibrate. You require for gyroscopes and accelerometers, especially for gyroscopes, you require, because it is sensing rotation rate, you require to reproduce precise rotation rate as true input to the system. So using this true input to the system, the rotation rates to the system, you find out what the gyro is measuring, and from there you fix this function. So there is something called compensation. Okay, calibration and compensation. Compensation is the reverse process. In the calibration process, you estimate the coefficients. In the compensation process, you find out the true input based on the readings. Those things we will study. So these are the first two experiments, but we will show, I think some students are already here. So using them, they will do it and then they will show you the video of that. Because you cannot do it, we will give you the numbers generated from here. You develop those coefficients for that. Okay, so those are the first two. Then some other part we are going to discuss now is, you imagine a situation where a launch vehicle rocket is launched from the surface of the earth at a particular time, and then it reaches the orbit. So during this process, the accelerometers will be making some measurements. Suppose if you are given the measurements of these accelerometers and the gyroscopes, how will you estimate the trajectory of the spacecraft? This double integration process, the navigation process is what, these are the two experiments we will give, where knowing the gyro reading, you should be able to estimate the orientation. And knowing the accelerometer reading along with the gyro reading, you should be able to estimate the trajectory the rocket has followed to reach the orbit. So that is 3 and 4, orientation of launch vehicle trajectory, and then by gyro readings. given gyro readings, and then trajectory of launch vehicle given gyro and accelerometer reading. Okay, so you have 4 simulations now. Well, I think 2 direct experiments whose numbers will be given to you. Then you can apply those equations and get those coefficients. And then you have 2 simulation experiments where the gyro readings, we are generating those gyro readings now. One of senior PhD student, Sriram, will be generating it. I will put you all in touch with him. Then for the GPS case, what we will do is, you have to find out, you have to generate the PRN numbers. So I think Aditya will know it very well. You have to generate the PRN numbers and verify its property. And what are its properties? That we will discuss in the class. It has some good correlation property that if you shift and take the correlation, if it is a non-zero shift, you will notice that the correlation values are very poor. So only when the PRN numbers are precisely aligned, you will get a very good correlation property. Okay, it may be very vague, but this is just a mention of it. I think mainly we are going to concentrate on these 5 things, so that you get some idea of what we are talking about. Later on, if I get some more ideas for that, I will discuss them with you. This is for lab, and in addition to your course project. So course project will be, we will be adding more to the lab when we get time. But course project, as of now, you have agreed 3 people, right? 3 persons.
Yes, sir.
You can also choose historical topics. That also I welcome you. Some of you may be interested in history. So then historically, can you reconstruct certain navigation equipments? They are all not difficult actually in your home. Last year, I think one student was able to Astrolab. There is an instrument called Astrolab or something. She was able to create that instrument. Of course, not in the using your cardboard papers and other things. Historical things, or you can do study in the Indian history, how navigation or the concept of time was defined. So that also, some of you, if you are interested in the history, you can look into that. That is, the calendar system of India is a measure for the time. Important measurement requirement in the navigation systems. So that's without time, you cannot integrate anything, especially in the inertial navigation. So the estimation of the time is an important factor. The day on which you are going to launch, the orientation of the topocentric horizon coordinate system, the orientation is dependent on what time you are launching the spacecraft with respect to the ECI coordinate system. So unless you understand the time very clearly, they will be off with respect to this orientation. So therefore, if some of you are interested, you can take that historically, how the calendar system in India was developed. That also is allowed. So it's a very wide topic. Basically, depending on your interest, you can choose multiple topics, some of you if you want. That is also there. There is a pulsar navigation. I think some of you, we have a project now running on that. Some of you may choose that. You can develop sensors for the pulsar navigation. Make sure, if possible, use this as a stepping stone for your final year project also, so that you get additional, in the sense you will be working for longer time on the same topic, then your understanding in that area will be high. So your quality of the final year project also will be significantly better when you do that. Okay, any other questions?
No, sir.
Comments? If some of you want to leave, you can leave, okay? So today I won't take anything more than this. So there is no hard and fast rule that you have to be here all the time or something like that. So don't unnecessarily log in and waste your bandwidth. If you feel you are learning something, it's okay. Otherwise, you are welcome to learn on your own also. At any point of time, I'm here to help you.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, the reference book for the course.
Yeah, there are few reference books. For the first, whatever I did, some, I think there is no specific reference book. They were all from Wikipedia and things like that, open sources, all from open sources. Let me check. So, okay, main topics that I will cover, I will tell you. Then I will be able to think of the, so I will, basics of inertial navigation I will cover. I think the book is by Grewal or Agarwal. I don't know. I have a confusion there. He talks about GPS and INS integration. So something Agarwal probably. I will find it out. Okay, that is basics of inertial navigation. So both, and then basics of GNSS. So this is by Aditya. Do you remember that book I shared with you in the beginning for global navigation satellite systems?
So the book you had given us?
Yeah, the one I told you to read. No, you and Rahul were trying to skim through that.
Yes, sir. I don't remember the name. I'll check and I'll tell you.
No problem.
I have it.
I will also check it out. No problem. Sure. And then I will also talk about rigid body mechanics. Yeah, because this is where I think these are the three key topics. Depending on the time availability, we will take it up one by one. And of course, coordinate transformation and other things. That is actually the basics. Coordinate transformation. Coordinate transformation, where did I take it from? There is a book called Kuipers, Quaternions and something. Okay, I will list all these things. The main topics are these four. Of course, we will be in between. We may talk about concept of time. That is from Balado. So yeah, basically, I won't be moving too much away from these textbooks. It will be almost.
So are you talking about Bernard Hoffman, sir?
Hoffman, yes, Hoffman, yes. Thank you. Mohinder Grewal. Okay, thanks. Who did this? Akash. Thank you, Akash. I think all these books are available in the, what do you call? Okay, Valado you have written. Libgen, are you aware of, I think you can stop recording now. I don't want to be on record saying that. Kshitij and others, can you stop that recording? Kshitij, are you there? Okay, anyway, later on I will tell you. I will tell Aman and he will tell you. I mean, sometimes online books will be available, you may use it. Yeah, basically these 5 topics. So we will start from coordinate systems, probably, and then basics of inertial navigation. We have to decide. I will just go and find out which one to take first. and then basics of GNSS and rigid body mechanics.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, like when you are teaching those things, like sometimes when you tell about the axis, like this is the inner axis, outer, sometimes the cursor is not like, we're
Yeah.
unable to follow where the cursor is. So it is becoming
True.
confusing sometimes.
Yeah. So whenever you get stuck up, don't hesitate to stop and make me explain that again.